Hello everybody and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we're doing a box office breakdown from this past weekend, which saw essentially nothing release, unless of course you want to count the massive release of Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, making a whopping $1.75 million at the box office, though it was a day-and-date release on Peacock, which I'm sure everyone and their mother has been driven to, but not really counting that at all because it doesn't really come into play at all within any of the top 10 films of the week. What we do have as far as big stories for the box office this weekend is that Spiderman No Way Home, the more fun stuff version, it's finally out. Everyone's been waiting for it. Maybe not, but at least people have been excited to see the film back in theaters again. It's a film that I know did very well at the box office when it first came out. It also did very well on home video, and it is just a pretty darn good movie, and I have to give kudos to Sony as the sole distributor and as having 75% of the production budget and therefore 75% of the profits for creating a film that was able to bring together all of the different Spider-Men and have all that nostalgia going on and doing it right. But that film is battling yet another film which has also been out for a long time, though not nearly as long. Still, though, the fact that you have Spider-Man No Way Home going up against Top Gun Maverick for the number 1 and number 2 spots, when you have new film technically coming out, and when you have other films that are much younger than these two, not even coming close to being a factor, it starts to make you ask the question about, yes, what in the world is Hollywood doing? Do they have any idea what they're doing? And if they don't, why won't they start, and if, or will they, rather, start listening? We'll have to, of course, wait and see. But before we go any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button, loud that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. So let's go ahead and dive into the story. As it says here, Spider-Man No Way Home fighting $700 million grossing Top Gun Maverick. Yes, indeed, it's crossed $700 million domestically. Kudos to Paramount for that. For the number 1 spot, as National Cinema Days pulls in $8 million, beating the Labor Day weekend of 2021. So hey, kudos to Labor Day of this weekend. Maybe you'll have a studio that actually will have a major release set for Labor Day of next weekend with that in mind. We'll have to, of course, wait and see. But yesterday was indeed National Cinema Day. The $3 tickets seem to have driven a lot of people out, especially families, out to see the movies. So Top Gun Maverick being the one of the biggest ones, potentially the first one, or at least Spider-Man No Way Home. Both of them are right now battling for supremacy. Right now, the projections for both of them have them both in that top spot, and whatever the actuals are, it's going to be between those two films when all is said and done. Basically, you have Sony claiming $7.6 million over 4 days, whereas Paramount is claiming $7 million. So as you can see, very, very close numbers there. Once the actuals are out on Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll know who actually won the weekend. But the fact that it's those two films that are just duking it out right now and not some of the newer films says a lot about those newer films in general. And I think that hopefully it's a wake-up call for again, just the studios in general and Hollywood. Hey, maybe we should start making films that people actually want to go see. Because guess what? Spider-Man No Way Home, adding $6 million or so to the 3-day numbers here. So again, this is just a 3-day without the Labor Day numbers put into it, pulling in $810 million. Now, obviously, a lot of that money was already taken into account from its initial release a long time ago, and some might question about whether or not we should really add this on to the actual film's release because it technically is a different version. However, for me, it's okay. It's basically a longer extended cut version of the film, which is essentially the same film. It's not like a situation where you have different directors with different cuts of the movie or anything like that. It's not a Snyder Cut situation, for instance. Thank the Lord for that. But it is still close enough to where, based on what I've been told about the movie and about the new version that's being put out there, is that it's essentially the same thing. And so I don't mind adding it personally to the numbers because this film is now at $1.9 billion, which is just darn impressive. Just as impressive, in my opinion, as Top Gun Maverick, because I don't think anyone expected the film to do nearly as well as it is doing right now. Right now, this film is sitting at $1.4 billion. And so Spider-Man No Way Home clearly won last year, 2021, since that's when it released. Top Gun Maverick right now sitting very easily at the top of the food chain with 1.4 and possibly in the future $1.5 billion. Big question, of course, what it's going to be able to kick it off its throne. If anything, you're looking at mid-October for Black Adam, and then you're looking at December for films like Avatar to come out. Who knows? I don't think those films are going to have nearly enough momentum or enough interest to be able to hold a candle to Top Gun Maverick, but we, of course, will have to wait and see. What I don't think that those films are going to have, though, what I do think I can make some predictions on right now is that it's not going to have the type of release that this movie has. Look at this number here, 15 weeks out. Again, this film came out 15 weeks ago, is also currently available on streaming. You can get it for $20 if you want to get the PVOD. If you want to own the film, you can get it for $20. Now, I think that's a little bit ridiculous. I wish that they had a renting fee for a little bit less, but I understand it. They're trying to make as much money as they can. That's kind of the nature of business in general. But look at this. In the 15th week, they added 151 screens back, and they increased their profits, or rather, they increased their box office performance domestically by 16%. That is really impressive. And that is the kind of number that you're not going to see from a lot of the films that I've just mentioned coming out in the next couple of months. You're just not really going to see it. How do I know that? I haven't seen the movies. I haven't, how do I really, how can I honestly say that? Well, for starters, with Black Adam, I could say, well, it's a part of the DCEU, and the DCEU has, for the most part, been a crapshoot. Has basically just also not even just a crapshoot, it's just been a crap fest. Most of the films have been bad, have been maybe C-level films or worse. And the best film, honestly, in my opinion, that they put out so far has been the first Shazam movie, which they've now delayed back till next year. And so, yeah, the one film that I actually was looking forward to from DC no longer going to be coming out. So you look at DC in general, you have Aquaman, which made $1 billion, and that's basically it as far as the big successes of the box office. Again, were films profitable, making their money back? Sure, but none of them actually reaching that $1 billion standard that many or much more of the MCU films have been able to do in comparison, or by comparison. And so I don't think then that movie, Black Adam, is going to be able to get to the 1.5 billion of Top Gun Maverick. And then you also look to Avatar, and Avatar, the first film, did incredibly well, did insanely well, right? Box office record holder still to this day in many areas. It is a movie that over time has gotten a lot less and a lot less love for it, because people have started to realize, other than the visual effects, there really isn't a whole lot to it. And, those visual effects aren't really all that impressive these days. So, yeah, it might be a visual spectacle, but is it going to be a good movie? And I think much more people now will care about that versus not, versus previous years. That's what I personally think. But regardless of that, Top Gun Maverick doing insanely well 15 weeks in. DC League of Super Pets saw a massive increase of 32%. As I said, I think a big reason why is because of those $3 tickets on Saturday. I think that there was a huge influx of kids and families going to see this movie. They were like, hey, what's a newer film that we haven't seen yet? We haven't gone to the theaters in a while. Hey, $3 for a ticket. I can actually afford that. And I think that that's the reason why this film saw as much of an increase as it did. It has helped it quite a bit. This film still needs a little ways, still has to make some money to make its money back. Still not quite at the break-even point, but definitely a step in the right direction, though I think it's probably because of the cheaper tickets. So I imagine that this film's going to have, compared to this weekend, probably a bigger drop than what would typically have been expected, because it's going to be comparing itself to a day in which tickets were $3. Bullet Train, similar story, it seems. Seems like people may have been giving this film a shot because they're like, hey, I'll go see it for $3. 4% drop from last weekend. So that's very good. It needs to have the same kind of drop as that consistently going forward. Not necessarily single digits, but needs to have strong holds from week to week going forward if it has a chance to break even. Right now, it is actually in a position where its break-evenness or its break-even possibility is definitely within that realm. You'll look at the numbers in a second on the charting and you'll see, this film totally has that potential to be able to hit those numbers there. If it's able to hold on this way, if it's able to continue to have strong holds, that is definitely a possibility. And again, if you've not seen this film, go see it. It really honestly is a darn good time. And with no competition really at all until mid-October, it has the entire month of September, essentially, to be able to continue to rack up some of its money domestically and internationally. The Invitation rounds out the top 5, making $4.7 million in its second week of release, which is a 31% hold, which is not all that terrible. Right now, I'm projecting it to make its money back, but one wonders if it would have been more successful had it been released in a different month. Beast came in at number 6 with another $3.6 million, so a strong hold there, but again, still needs to make a little bit more if it's going to try and get closer to the tracking it's going to need to make its money back. Minions Rise of Gru, now the number 7 spot, up being 15%. As I said, I think these kids' movies did a lot better because of that $3 ticket on Saturday. This film, though, been out for 10 weeks, still doing incredibly well there. So very, very impressive numbers for that. Thor: Love and Thunder in the number 9 spot, once again, dropping 8%. So probably having some people show up for it, making only $2.4 million. And yeah, this film, again, it's made its money back. It's made some profit, but in comparison to the other MCU films, it's just really a massive disappointment in a lot of ways. And Disney seems to be losing its swing, if you know what I mean. Jaws came in at the number 10 spot, making $2.3 million. And I want you to look at this number right here, all right? 9 weeks of release for Thor: Love and Thunder. This is still a newer release. And you might say, well, it's not that new. Okay, go look at Top Gun Maverick. Again, you're welcome. Jaws, which has been out now for 2,464 days, or no, 2,464 weeks. My apologies, because it came out back in 1970s. This movie, in its re-release, at 1,200 screens, 800 less screens, much better per theater ratio, $2.3 million. When the actuals come out for this weekend, maybe you see Jaws take the number 9 spot over Thor: Love and Thunder. That to me is a pretty bad sign. I'm just saying it right now based on the numbers as they are. All right, and then coming in the number 10 spot is Where the Crawdads Sing with $1.8 million, dropping another 19%. Very strong hold there. And there's also some updates to add for films like Nope, 3,000 Years of Longing, and of course, Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. So let's look at the numbers. Spiderman No Way Home, $1.9 billion. Again, insane. The film's continuing to make money after this long with the new Fun Stuff version, which is going to have probably a decent run since the fact is that people probably want to go see this film again on the big screen, and especially because this film is just really a lot of fun. And with nothing else, as I said, coming out except for some random re-releases in September, it's going to have pretty much no competition until mid-October. Top Gun Maverick now at $1.429 billion, meaning, hey, $1.5 billion seems to be a possibility, seems to be something that it could do now that it's well over $700 million domestically. Yeah, this is definitely the film to beat when it comes to box office for this year, 2022. DC League of Super Pets up to $153.2 million, so adding some nice money there, but still has a ways to go. Bullet Train adding a lot more money than expected with $196.8, so $200 million is going to be very easily in this future by the end of next weekend. The question is, how much more money does it make? Does it get to the $210, $215 million number? Because if it's at $210, $215 by next weekend, I would say it's within striking distance of breaking even within about a week after that, if those numbers continue to hold. Invitation now at $18.2 million because of a low budget. This film has a very good chance to break even. Beast now at $47.2 million. Its budget was a little bit higher, around $35 to $40 million. So explains why the CGI doesn't look all that great. But hey, some people are going to see it. It's having strong holds, but didn't have as big of a weekend as it had probably hoped for. So we'll see exactly if those strong holds continue and if they continue in a way to push this film over the edge. Minions continues to do massive amounts of money, $890.8 million. But of course, I like to always remind people that $30 million of that came from China, or so far has been reported as coming from China. And that means that millions of dollars have gone to help fund the Communist Party of China. So screw you, Universal, for continuing to work with the Chinese Communist Party. Thor: Love and Thunder, not a lot of love. $748 million, basically has stalled out completely. Jaws 1975, continuing to make money. That's right, could actually end up being higher than Thor: Love and Thunder after 9 weeks of release, after 4,000 whatever weeks of release. Again, I think that's a pretty interesting metric. Where the Crawdads Sing now, $110 million. Nope, this is a interesting story. As I mentioned in my original breakdown for this movie, the domestic numbers are pretty much stalling out, but the international numbers, that is where the ultimate story lies for this movie because it has a very delayed release in different countries. And because of that delayed release, it means that the film's going to do a lot better than what the original projections I have for this film at. And so if we look at the numbers for this weekend when we get to the charting, you'll see, yes, this film actually has a good chance of being able to make its money back. It's within striking distance. 3,000 Years of Longing, not nearly as much of a strong, good story there, even though right now it is tracking, within the realm of what the projections were, with no international market to speak of, and with very little, if at all, attention from the domestic. Question is, why did they spend $60 million on the production budget for this movie? I honestly don't know. No production budget is known yet at this point, as of the recording of this video at least, for Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul, but that made a whopping $1.75 million. It did come out on Peacock as well, so hey, I guess that's your excuse, as it were. And then Jurassic World Dominion, I know that I still got those people in the comments section who are obsessed with this movie, still hasn't made $1 billion. Again, $996 million, it's close to $1 billion. Does it have it in potency? Does it have the potential to reach $1 billion? Yeah, it has the potential. And right now, to be honest, again, to drop the facade for a second, I do think that the film at this point is going to be able to hit $1 billion. But again, for the people that have just been nonstop like, blah, blah, Jurassic World Dominion, blah, movie still sucks. Congratulations. You have a crappy film that's likely going to hit $1 billion by next weekend. Good job. Good on you. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to the actual box office charting, which you can find on my website, ombreviews.com, and we'll go ahead and look at what we can actually do some projections for. We got 2 films we can do that for. So with the $18 million for The Invitation, I'm projecting it to make somewhere between $26 and $36 million. 3,000 Years of Longing is going to make somewhere between $8 and $12 million by the end of its run. Not a very good sign for that. That means as far as box office gains are concerned, I'm suspecting Invitation to make at least a small profit, $681,000. That's right, you see that correctly. I think it'll probably get closer to this $6 million number here, so probably somewhere closer to $3 to $4 million in net profit. So not a very good sign. I mean, hey, making your money back, making a few $1 million in profit, not spending all that much on it in the first place. Again, just a $10 million budget. I think that they were probably hoping this film to be a much bigger hit than what they've got, but ultimately these days, a lot of studios will look at this and say, hey, at least we didn't lose our money. Versus 3,000 Years of Longing, which right now is projected to lose somewhere between $84 and $82 million. We'll have to, of course, wait and see just how badly it does. Right now, it's at negative 86, whereas Invitation, as you can see, striking distance, $4 million in the red. Some of the updates for other films, we got Beast at $47.2 million right now, meaning it's $25 million in the red. So as you can see, is it still possible for the film to make its money back? Sure, especially with very little competition. However, there's just also not a whole lot going on with it as far as where it started, where it is now. So this one, I would say, is a lot less likely of a chance to make its money back, especially since it's not doing nearly as well internationally. The film Fall, very close to breaking even. I suspect that it will soon. I think it's going to be on available, actually, for online very soon if it isn't already. So that wouldn't surprise me if it's able to at least make up this very, very small amount that it has to make. With Bullet Train at $196.8 million, you can see now only $16 million in the red. This is now at 58% compared to its first 2 weeks of release, which means that if this progression continues, it could end doubling its budget, and or rather doubling its first 2 weeks. Doubling its first 2 weeks. And if it's able to double its first 2 weeks, it'll be in a very good position to reach its break-even point. But of course, we'll be following the numbers on this and continuing to update y'all accordingly. Easter Sunday, continuing to not do much of anything. 17 million in the red, pretty much standard there. DC League of Super Pets, as you can see, has a much longer journey ahead, though it is getting close to doing, again, pretty well week to week. Because it didn't make a whole lot in its opening, even though it's at strongholds, it still is 43 million in the red, so still has a ways to go. But for Nope, as I mentioned, striking distance, only 6.3 million in the red, has essentially doubled what it did in the first 2 weeks of its release, and so that's why I suspect by the end of its run, Nope will be able to hit its break-even point. Based on the numbers, as I said, as I mentioned also, again, those international numbers coming in late is what caused this film to get to the point where it is, where the crawdads sing up to 30 million in net gain profit. So very strong week-to-week numbers there for that movie, doing incredibly well over the projections that even I had for the movie. Then you also have the new numbers for Thor: Love and Thunder. Right now, still 74 million in net gain profit. Not likely going to get anywhere close to $100 million, which I said is the cap for this movie. This film has essentially stopped making money at this point in time. Minions: The Rise of Gru is up to $407 million in net gain profits. We also have, Elvis at 41 million, still doing well, even also after being released on HBO Max, which I still need to go and see. We're like little children. Jurassic World Dominion's $996 million. Yay! It's almost there. 350 in net profit, still a crappy movie. And most importantly for me, Top Gun Maverick, $1.429 billion, over $600 million in net gain profits. So not only has this film reached $700 million domestically, well over $700 million internationally, still has a ways to go too, based on these numbers, with no competition, especially all of September. Hey, is $1.5 billion in the cards and on the table for this movie. Let me know your thoughts about that or any other films that I mentioned in the comment section down below. If you like this video, smash that like button, lap that fire button. If you're watching over on Odyssey, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed Sunday, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out for all of my September Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals members. Starting off with my Patreon members, Chris from the 80s, that's his YouTube channel, Garrett Searles, Hymir Irie Hymason, Jeff Toon, Jonathan Carney, Laura, the Modern Major General Story, Orange Eye Reviews, you can also find on YouTube by the same name, Rosetta Allen, YouTube's name is Eagle Rider, Stan Andrian, and Miss Martin Muses, and that is her YouTube channel. Thank y'all very much for supporting me over on Patreon. Also, for all my Subscribestar peeps, Matt317, that's his Twitch channel name, support him there. Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Mr. Roy, J-Rod, the Beer Guru, and the K-Man. Thank you, K-Man, as well, and you can find him at xtheboundaries.co, and thanks to all of my Subscribestar members. And lastly, to my Locals members, Locals has definitely been hopping a lot more recently. Shout out to Miss Minnesota hockey fan, how about a hockey player, UAB My Dog, Mad Dog, UAB, Mad Dog, Mike Jackson for the win, Brett D90, and the amazing lawyer Robert Barnes. Thank y'all for supporting me over on Locals. And if you want your name shouted out vocally at the end of every single live stream and video, make sure that you support me over on Patreon, Subscribestar, or Locals. And you can find out more information about it on those websites, and check out the top link in the video description below if you want to find out more about how to get that, access to podcasts that I do with John the Flickinger, and also how to be featured on the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, which I do once a month with my Chosen of Valhalla members. And it's always a lot of fun. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today. You guys all have an amazing rest of your day. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Beautiful people. And as always, God bless.